drinking from the fire hose, biggest dog does not equal best dog, and a historic butt fumble. Welcome to the Unlimited Supply Podcast, your daily music business TLDR in your ear, powered by a shower of queeners and rods, and brought to you by No Disc, helping music technology and finance companies navigate the music industry in partnership with Digital Music News. It's July 31st, 2026. That went fast. I'm Lars Murray, and it's another Finance Friday. It's summer earnings season, and clearly everybody wants to get out the door and enjoy August. That's why earnings calls were stacked up like American jets over O'Hare this week. SiriusXM, Universal Music Group, Sony Music, and Hybe, which is too many to cover all in one episode, so forgive me if you have to wait until Monday to cover all of those significant calls. We are drinking from the earnings fire hose today, so let's dive right into the shallow money trench where thieves and pimps run free. We'll start with the global leader in market share, Universal Music Group. UMG proved that being the biggest dog doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best dog. Their quarter was decidedly meh. We've been saying for a year now that we are in the mature phase of the paid streaming music economy, and while I'm old enough to remember when the music industry was in an active state of decline, the days of reliable double-digit growth in recorded music and publishing appear to be gone. Across the board, top-line revenue at UMG grew 13% year over year, but when you dig down into it after you factor in some pretty big capital expenses like buying Downtown, the bottom-line revenue was up only 1.3% year over year, even despite the streaming master business, which accounts for the largest share of the business, growing relatively well at 13.1%. The publishing mark was in the high single digits, down year over year, and they projected that it's going to stay there for a while. We've been saying this for a few quarters now, but the canary in the streaming coal mine is ad-supported streaming revenue. You see, that's where you get your new customer growth as people try the ad-supported tiers before they convert to paid subscription streaming. If ad-supported is not growing, it means basically that the market has reached saturation, and maybe worse than that, your DSP partners like Spotify aren't doing very well selling ads against music, or partners like YouTube don't really prioritize music against their other offerings. One of UMG's reactions to the stagnation in free-to-consumer music growth is an experiment they're going to run in India. They're going to be windowing all of their new releases behind a 72-hour paywall across all DSPs. India is a pretty good market to run this experiment in, lots of users, and not much to lose in terms of revenue. But if you piss off those users, the problem, or challenge, is that if the rest of the industry doesn't follow along, UMG is the only one out there pissing off the fans who are used to not paying. We'll see how long it takes for this to be either normalized or whether it'll just go down in flames. It's a bold strategy, Cotton Grainge. Good, bad, or indifferent, all of this comes with the usual warnings that looking at a music company across a single quarter only tells part of the story. A light release schedule can really mess with your results, and a hit out of the blue can paper over structural weakness. For UMG, I suspect the former, not the latter, and I suspect this is why UMG's stock price didn't move a lot across the week. Dylan Smith has more details over at Digital Music News, and a hat tip to Ross Walthall over at Cleveland Research for supplying some extra cliff notes in a very timely fashion. Thanks, Ross. Let's spin the wheel to decide which of my former employers to do next, Sony or SiriusXM/Pandora. And the needle lands on SXM, which is a good thing because it's very likely that nobody will be thinking much about SXM on Monday when we get back to this exercise. And because I like to start my week off with cheerful news, and that's what Sony had. As for SXM, well, let's start with the good stuff. They managed to increase their margins, which is the essential task of managing decline. And let me see, what else good happened over there? Well, podcast revenue was up 30% year over year, which is good news. Somebody wants to pay for ads. But when you measure it against last year's Q2 37% growth and factor in that it's a small slice of the overall business, even that doesn't look so rosy. It's also good news that the company announced Pandora had re-upped with UMG, which is something UMG touted, but not Sirius, which might tell you something about that deal, considering that a UMG deal is table stakes to be in any kind of interesting business with them. Lucian Grainge characterized Pandora on the call as a top 10 partner. Ouch. Gross margin was up 30% over at SXM, though, and gross profit was up 6%, but when your margins are 30%, while your ad revenue growth is at 5% and your subscription revenue growth is flat, that can only mean one thing: cost cutting, which is just great for morale. SXM, I'm sad to say, is the perfect confluence of an outdated technology, linear satellite radio, with a lame duck streaming service, Pandora, which I will always remind everybody, in June 2014 dominated U.S. listening with 76 million monthly active users in the U.S. against Spotify's, at the time, estimated 10 million. Now Pandora is at 38 million. That's exactly half that 2014 number, because long story short, it ignored and then dawdled on-demand streaming. It could have been the winner. It's a remarkable and historic butt fumble, even if there are still profits to be squeezed out of it, which is why its stock was pretty much flat or a little bit up during the week. Again, Dylan Smith over at DMN has more details, and thanks to Ross at Cleveland Research, again, for the additional Cliff Notes. We'll get to the cheerier news at Sony on Monday, and that's another Finance Friday. Time for the Song of the Week. We devoted most of Tuesday to the AI-generated track that ensnared me this week, Hinotoriprojekt, La Dolce Riviera. 14 minutes of sun and fun on the AI Côte d'Azur. It's on our Unlimited Supply official podcast playlist on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Qobuz. There's a link in the show notes. Support for Unlimited Supply comes from you, our listeners, and if you haven't picked up your Unlimited Supply supporter swag, now is the time. The summer is leaving us very fast, and there's no better summer hat than the Unlimited Supply Black Trucker Cap. It's on sale in our store, bundled with a year-long premium membership at a discount. We also have Unlimited Supply merit badges, or you can just buy me a cup of coffee. If you like what you hear, please hit that follow button wherever you get your pods. Follow us on Substack, or drop us a rating and or a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify. And tell a friend or three, preferably 21 times, because according to marketing whiz Susie Schultz, it now takes not 5, but 21 times for anything to sink in. Links are in the show notes, but you can also visit unlimitedsupplypod.com to sign up for our newsletter, to tell us what you think about the show, to suggest feature ideas, to feed us info, to feed us lunch, to call us out on our dubious assertions, and to tell us what we're missing out on. In the words of the great philosopher Eduardo Rivadavia, don't let your short-term greed get in the way of your long-term greed. And remember, in this business, no conflict means no interest. Talk to you Monday.